All right, it's bonus time. Retro artifact. So much like the mystical archive in Strixhaven, we're going to have, this is a dedicated slot, right? Either an uncommon or a rare or mythic artifact reprint. Is that correct, Alex?
That is correct.
All right, so we're going to sort through these. I believe there's 63 of them. First one here, Bone Saw, 0 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and it has an equip cost of 1.
Well, we saw a decent amount of bad equipment, and this is a terrible one. So
Yeah.
this is not what you want. There's no real reason to put this card in your deck. It's just too low impact. It's 0 cost, but not a card you're gonna want. And this is what, by the way, we're gonna see this throughout these artifacts. A lot of them are gonna be either terrible or awesome. There's not a ton that are like, you could put this in your deck, you could not. We're mostly just gonna be, I think, breezing through these, hopefully.
All right, look, he said it, not me.
Yeah,
he said it, not me. Let's just take it over under. We're a minute in. Over under on the video length here, Alex. 63 cards.
It's gonna be an hour. I think we can do it in an hour.
I think so too. I would actually. I might even put the line. I might even go under. I take the under on an hour.
Okay, cool. Let's go through.
You can filibuster, so that's not fair.
Yeah.
I'll
Bone Saw?
I'll give Bone Saw a D. Like,
okay,
I can see the very like narrow spot of like, yeah, it triggers your blue-red signpost uncommon, and then it turns that 1/1 you made into a 2/1,
sure.
whatever. Like, I don't think it's a stone cold F.
No, it's just really low impact. Next up, though, we've got Mishra's Bauble. So this is 0 mana artifact. Tap, sack it. Look at the top card of target player's library. You draw a card at the beginning of next turn's upkeep.
So a 0 mana artifact that cantrips effectively.
Yeah, this one I am kind of into. Like, cantripping artifact, it's a free sacrifice trigger. It's a free draw 2 trigger. It's just a free artifact trigger. Like, it's super. This gets played in a lot of constructed decks for these reasons. It's just like, it triggers a lot of little things.
Turns your deck into 39 cards.
That too, right? And like the information you get from your opponent or your next draw step is relevant. So this is actually good. I would probably give this like C+.
Yeah, I'm in for C+ on Bauble.
You can always just take it in the draft and you find a spot for it, most likely.
Yeah. Ornithopter, 0 mana for an 0/2 with flying.
Also an F. You're not going to have many spots for this. There's not like super, you want all the artifact stacks in this.
But what if you put the 4 mana animate an artifact into a 4/4?
That's cool. And then you're down. No, I'm gonna say just
no, this is not good.
Yeah,
no, I'm in for F on Ornithopter.
Next up is Chromatic Star, 1 mana artifact, 1 tap, sack the star, add 1 mana of any color, and then when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card.
Again, I think this, we're gonna bob and weave back and forth, but this goes up, I think, to Bauble status for me as cheap cantripping, little filtering.
Sacrifice trigger.
Yeah.
Makes the mana. It's this and Bauble. Only kind of like we're gonna see a few trinkety artifacts, like just good things to buy back from the graveyard if you have like buy back an artifact. So yeah, just same thing. I think around a C+.
I'm in for that. Next, Ivory Tower, 1 mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand minus 4.
Old school control card. So if you have a deck that like draws a ton of cards, you gain 3 life a turn off of this, or 2 life a turn. That's actually not a bad deal, but you have to be in a pretty narrow deck where you're like really hard control, really drawing a lot of cards. And if you're not there, it's really, really bad. If you're there, it's a playable card.
Yeah, I think this is an F, personally.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I just know there's going to be spots where you'll see this card in play, and it's going to be decent sometimes. That's all. Okay. Next up, we've got Stole Guide Lantern. 1 mana artifact. Whenever the lantern enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard, tap it, sack the lantern, exile each opponent's graveyard, 1 tap, sacrifice the lantern, draw a card.
I mean, we're sort of bad, like F, C+, F, C+. But I think, again, like cheap, cantripping, slight synergy with, or not slight synergy, but slight impact in terms of exiling and unearthing. Exile, like this sitting on the battlefield against some decks is going to be problematic. They're going to feel like, dang, this is my game plan and I can't do anything.
You just nab an earth thing when it comes in.
Yeah, so I think C+ here.
Yep, I think so too. Next up is Springleaf Drum. Single mana for an artifact. Tap it and tap an untapped creature you control. You can add a mana of any color.
So we have the green creature, the 1 mana green elf that does a very similar thing, though that can tap an artifact. My inclination is F here.
No, I don't think it's enough because you can replace a land with this at some point. Like if you got enough cheap creatures, this is just like a Mox-ish creature or Mox-ish card. That's how it gets played and constructed, where you've got a lot of 2s, a lot of 1s, a lot of 3s. So if you've got someone in the neighborhood of like, if you're drafting like the
But
3
is
mana
a deck
cost,
that has a lot of 2s and 1s and 3s, does it want this to turn its creatures into mana rocks?
yeah, it's an acceleration thing. So like you replace a land with it, right? So it's just like, yeah, I think it does. You want to power out your stuff as quick as possible.
Okay. So what do you give it?
It's like a synergy C+, basically.
Sure, okay.
So yeah, you want like 10, 11, 12 creatures that are cheap. But if you're there, it's a fine card.
We had alluded to this for the monocolor decks yesterday. This is Elsewhere Flask. 2 mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and you can sack it. Choose a basic land type. Each land you control becomes that type until end of turn.
Yeah, it's so funny. So many of these cards just have like, it has sacrifice energies. It draws a card for your draw 2 deck. All these little things, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like you said, with Corrupt or the white Sword Splasher cards, you kind of get a little bit of extra value there. So mostly with Corrupt, I would say, is where you're going to want this card. But also just fine if you want a cantrippy, trinkety artifact. So C+ for this one too.
Yep, I'm in for C+ with the Flask.
Next up, Ichor Wellspring. 2 mana for an artifact. When it ETBs or it's put into the graveyard from play, you draw a card.
Honestly, I kind of want to go a little higher here.
Yeah?
Like Synergy B-, B+, or Synergy B-.
Yeah, just this is going to be a 2 mana draw 2 in a lot of decks where you have consistent sacrifice outlets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're red or black. I think this is like a B+ level card.
What do you think about this next one? Liquid Metal Coating. 2 mana artifact. Tap. Target permanent becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn.
Right. So, you can do the kind of fun thing of draft all the disenchants and the shatterers, and you turn your opponent's lands or just any permanent into an artifact, and your disenchant that target can kill anything. There was a card like this in Modern Horizons 2 that was a little bit different but very similar, and there's disenchants in that effect in that format too, and like that was a real thing you could do. You kind of wanted 2 of them to make sure you drew this consistently, but like if you just have like all the disenchants, all 2 of these cards consistently, then yeah, you can turn your stuff into better removal spells. Is that a good thing to do? I don't think it's particularly awesome, but
I don't think that's worth a card.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So I'm mostly gonna give this an F, but just with note that you can do a fun thing.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. Next up, Millstone. 2 mana, classic one, artifact. 2 tap, target player mills 2 cards.
I don't. There was a question about this last week, I think, when we saw this list fully spoiled of like, well, is this a win con in a control deck? And I think ultimately the answer is no.
Yeah, I think it's just too slow. It doesn't have enough closing speed, doesn't help you keep you alive.
Yeah.
You can mill yourself, but I imagine it's also going to be too slow. So I'm just going to give it an F.
I agree. Sigil of Valor. 2 mana for an equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other creature you control, and it has an equip cost of 1.
Yeah, so it gives all your creatures Exalted.
Exalted -1.
-1, yes, doesn't count itself. This card, I was going to say, Ethan, you remember this card in Origins? No, you don't remember this card in Origins.
Oh, was it an Aura?
No, it was in Origins. Magic.
It was just literally this. Okay.
Yeah, literally this card. It was fine. It was okay. Like, it's a better equipment definitely than we've seen from the other cards, but it's also just not that exciting. So if you're an aggressive deck, I think this card's a solid card. Only attacking you with one thing is kind of narrow because you have to be in a board state where one thing, you're kind of stalled out already and you've got a lot of creatures and you're pumping your one creature. A lot of times you just want to attack with multiple things. So even in your aggressive decks is not awesome, but it's playable. It's like a C there.
Yeah, sure. Synergy C sounds good. All right. Next up, we have another equipment. It's Swiftfoot Boots. This is 2 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste, and it has an equip cost of 1.
It's an annoying card, but I don't think it's actually a very good one.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair, to be honest.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to be sitting there with your opponent's got a bunch of removal hand, or you've got a bunch of removal hand, your opponent casts this, and you're like, oh, crap, like, I can't kill their best thing over and over. So, yeah, I don't think this is just going to be a card you throw in your average deck. Maybe a sideboard card so against somebody against a bunch of removal, but even then, it's like, it might not be that effective. So, I'm mostly just...
They just have to get through this, and then they get through, like, with their disenchant or whatever. Yeah, I think I'll just go F on Boots.
Cool. Burnish Heart is up next. This is a 3 mana 2/2 artifact creature. It's got an ability 3, sack it, search your library for 2 basic lands, put one onto the battlefield, and put them both onto the battlefield, then shuffle.
It's a little slow.
It is, yeah. It's not a super clean play pattern of like, play it on 3.
Yeah, two into 3 would be nice.
Yeah, the next turn you've got to then spend most of your turn doing this.
But not much colorless fixing in the format.
Sure.
So this does do something. I think it's slow but not great. But I would give it a C-, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you actively want fixing. Like this is a fine card if you actively want the fixing your ramp and don't play it otherwise.
Yep. Next, we have Foundry Inspector. 3 mana for a 3/2 construct. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Universal Power Stone.
Yeah, this is just good.
This is great.
Really like this card. Yeah. Makes all your prototype stuff cheaper. Yeah, this is a high pick. This is going to be like a B.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, B for sure. Okay.
Next up, Jaloom Tomes is 3 mana for an artifact. 2 tap it, draw a card, then discard a card. Super, super slow.
No, thank you.
Polluting. Yeah, no, it's just way. It is a nostalgia card more than anything.
Right.
Just an F.
Yep. Pristine Talisman though, pretty good. 3 mana artifact, tap for a colorless, you gain 1 life.
Yeah. So if you haven't played with Pristine Talisman or against it, it's deceptively good.
Yes,
just,
I agree.
The 1 mana, so the 1 liking every turn, it just sits there and you're like, all right, gain. Like you're gonna gain 5 life over the course of the game, and if the game stalls out, you kind of get out of range of burn or any, getting finished off by a combat trick. So the fact that it just adds mana, it can ramp you to your 5 drops, and yeah, it's got the additional upside. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I think I would go B- on Talisman.
Yep, I think so. Which sounds high, I'm sure, right? But I think it is. It does reach that level.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Self-Assembler. So we mentioned this one a few times. 5 mana, 4/4 artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for an assembly worker card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle.
Yeah, so we had these. When we initially saw this, it was at common, and the joke was that was that Origins too? No.
No, that was Kaladesh.
Kaladesh, okay. But so you have this at common, and then you get 3 of them in your deck, and they can search up each other. Here, you're probably, because it's an uncommon, and in this retro artifact slot, you probably won't see multiples that often, but it can go search up the common cycle of assembly workers if you want. Yeah, I think this is probably like a D.
Oh, I think it's a little bit better than that. I think just
really?
Okay, sorry. Now that I think about it, you do have to have a deck where you want the assembly workers,
which is just hard to imagine. It's just like, yeah, 2 bad tastes that taste great together, but like.
I guess if you have the rare, it's really good, right? The white type one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm more on board with you. I think it's gonna be a narrow enough card, but if you do have that rare, it's gonna take it. You're gonna draw that rare more often.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
That moves us on to the rares and mythics. First up is Astral Cornucopia, which is XXX Vin Diesel. It enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it, and you can tap, choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on Astral Cornucopia.
Yeah, it's a manalith for the most part. You can kick it to get double manalith, but if your deck wants manalith for whatever reason, you're splashing, you feel like you need the ramp, that's fine. If not, it's not an exciting card.
Do you not? That's interesting. You seem like you're very. So you liked the green 2/3 that tapped for 2 mana.
Yep.
A lot more than this, sounds like.
Oh, that double ramps you.
Double ramps you.
This is single ramp, and it's a creature.
Yeah. No. Can you explain? And what is this?
This is just an artifact that sits in the battlefield.
An artifact, and it costs
it doesn't block.
No, I'm just saying, like all you're doing is reading the cards to me. Like I know what the cards do. Like
yeah.
Well, I just think, but any knock to this or any bump for this being colorless, and any bump for this being scalable, being castable with Power Stones. Sounds like you're very down on this card, and I am not.
No, I'm not very down. I'm just saying it's not exciting. Like as much as you would. Okay, so let's if you put Manalith in the main set, what would you rate Manalith?
I mean, with the lack of fixing that exists, I'd probably give it like a C+.
Yeah, I guess that's just because you're more inclined to splash than I. Because I just don't care that much about the fixing. I think mostly I'm going to be drafting 2-color decks, I imagine. So, I don't know. I don't think it matters that much.
Okay, give me a grade on this.
Just a C-. Yeah,
okay.
Same as I would give a Manalith.
Cool.
Next up is Mox Amber. 0 mana or legendary artifact. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures or planeswalkers you control. No, just an F. You're not going to have enough legends to make this good. So,
but I want to.
Yeah, I know. Maybe if you reach 8-9 legends somehow, sure. But next
Okay,
one's kind of
yeah.
interesting.
It's
Yeah.
Altar of Dementia as a mythic 2-mana artifact. Sack a creature, no tap, no nothing, just sack a creature. Target player mills cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. This was in Modern Horizons 1.
Mm-hmm. This one's good.
This
This
was
one
good.
is this mills your opponent out really quickly, and of course the joke here is unearthed too, right? You like sack your unearthed creatures after you get them back, and you mill them pretty quickly. So it's more of a controlling card. I mean, it is a controlling card. But like if you just build it a board, like let's say you play this later in the game, you've got 3 creatures, and they've across the board they've got like 10 power. Okay, that's 10 cards right there. You have an unearthed card, that's another like 6 or 7 cards or something, plus the cards they've drawn per turn. It doesn't take much to mill them out with this card.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Do you think you do want like this card kind of becomes your game plan in a sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a 1-card game plan. Like you don't need other mill cards or anything like that.
Mhm.
So just like have a controlling deck, have some unearthed cards, play this card. If you like, I would first pick this card, and I think you can build around it.
I think so too. Build
yeah.
around B plus.
Yeah, build around B plus. That's a good grade.
Cool.
Next one, Black Blade Reforged. This is 2 mana for an equipment. Equip creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. Equip a legend for 3 mana. Equip anything for 7 mana.
It is a hefty equip cost, so let's calibrate.
Yeah.
Let's think about it like a equip cost is 5 with a couple power stones. Still a very hefty equip cost. But
yeah.
I will say this is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's 5, giving your creature +5/+5 is wild.
Yeah. It's a big buff. It also is a big blowout if they kill it in response or something, right? So you have to be careful about that. Just a big tempo blowout.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think about this?
So I think if your deck has 3 legends, which isn't crazy, I think that's attainable in this set. Like there's a decent number of uncommons. It is a card you're really happy about. If you can just like, you're going to be making your legend massive, and then they kill the legend potentially. Maybe you then put it on something else for 7 mana. I don't think you want to first pick it. I think it is a little bit too narrow, a little bit too clunky, a little bit too. You'd like to equip a legend at some point, but I think in the middle of the pack, maybe you can speculate on it. You're like, okay, there's something really else here. Maybe you bump up your pick order of a legend or 2. And yeah, it is a powerful card. It's just not one that you can go straight in and be like, yeah, I know this card's going to be awesome from pick 1, pack 1.
Yeah, that's my feeling. Is like I just feel like the points being made by Jason and Chad is that this was a bomb in Dominaria, which I think might have been at least close to near bomb status, but there was a legend in every pack there.
Yeah,
and I don't know if we're going to get that even close to that. So yeah, I don't know. I like your caveat of, hey, if you have 3, but I don't think this is going to be, certainly if we're thinking about pack 1, pick 1, I don't think this is a high pick.
No, I don't think so either. I think you're going to mostly, and these cards just in general, they're kind of appealing looking people. Maybe once people catch on to exactly how good or bad they are, they go at an appropriate time in the draft. But early on, I imagine people are just going to be like, ooh, that's shiny and fancy.
Yeah, right.
So you probably won't get this early on in the format, but I'd be happy taking it mid-pack, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's going to land it on like a C for me.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Next up, another easy one, Defense Grid, 2 mana artifact. Each spell costs 3 more to cast, except during its controller's turn. Not a card for us. Constructed card against control decks.
Big
so just an
F.
Yep.
Probably same for this next one, Howling Mine. 2 mana artifact at the beginning of each player's draw step. If Howling Mine is untapped, that player draws an additional card.
Yeah, I agree. Also, not a card for us. It's just too hard to break the symmetry unless you can find a way to tap the mine every turn.
That's true.
I think that is. I don't think there's great ways to do this. So just give it enough.
Okay.
Journeyer's Kite is next. 2 mana for an artifact. 3 tap it. Search your library for a basic land card. Reveal it. Put it into your hand. Then shuffle.
Repeatable.
It is. Yeah. It is clunky though. Very clunky.
So slow. Yeah.
Your first land is 5 mana. Yeah, I'm just gonna give this an F.
First land's 5 mana, and it only goes into your hand. Doesn't even go into the battlefield.
Not even the
yeah,
battlefield.
This is an F. I agree.
Ooh.
Next up, this card's pretty good. Key to the City. 2 mana artifact. Tap, discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. And whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, you can pay 2, and if you do, draw a card. So
yeah, sort of funky, but
it's a little clunky. But like, this can really push a lot of damage.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't even say clunky. I said funky.
Oh, funky. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, this pushes a lot of damage. It's got the ability, you can sort of quote unquote get some card advantage by discarding an unearthed card and then pay 2 to draw an actual card, and now you got both. But like, this card can really end games quickly, I would say.
Yeah. I think this is one of the better ones too. It's just like, just a pretty good limited card. Like the first time we saw this back in Kaladesh, it was like, okay, yeah, solid card. It gives you some filtering, pushes damage, all good stuff. So I think this was like a B-.
Yeah, B- sounds good to me on Key to the City.
Another pretty decent one here, Maze Mind Tomes. This is 2 mana for an artifact. You can tap it to put a page counter on the tome to scry 1, or pay 2 to tap it to put a counter on it and draw a card. And then when there are 4 counters on it, you exile the tome and you gain 4 life.
It's just a fantastic little card draw engine. Don't be afraid to scry with it. Like, if you're playing this on turn 2, you almost certainly should be scrying with this immediately. Like, don't feel like you gotta draw 4 cards off of this.
I'll also say don't feel like you need to activate it right away, right? It's like you got your lands, you got your spells, like just like chill. Maybe like ideally you do get the 4 cards off of it, and the scry is like, a buyout if you need to. But yeah, don't be afraid either way. Totally.
Right. Yeah, I think this is a B.
Yep, me too. Good first pick.
All right, next up we have Mesmeric Orb. 2 mana for an artifact. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card.
Yeah, generally, and like again, this is another one that's gonna be really hard to break the symmetry on. Like self-mill comes to mind, but yeah, I think this is just gonna be too much not for us. So I think enough.
Okay.
Next up, Phyrexian Revoker. This is 2 mana for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a non-land card. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated. Cannot choose Power Stones. They are not cards. They're tokens.
Correct. Nice. This is a bit, like, if I'm just equating this set to like Vintage Cube, Revoker's pretty good in Vintage Cube, and I think it's gonna be pretty good here.
Yeah, I think you're going to have something that you're like, oh, just nab that, and it's just a 2/1. You can trade off. It's an artifact creature. Like, it's never gonna be too bad. It's not a super high pick, but you're happy to have it. It's like a C+.
Yeah, I think C+ is a great grade for the Revoker. Next is Runechanter's Pike. You cannot name Power Stone. Runechanter's Pike is 2 mana for an equipment with an equip cost of 2. The equipped creature has first strike and gets +X/+O, where X is the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard.
Yeah, another good equipment. Now, it requires a bit of build around, and it's like, you want to have, 9, 10 instances of sorcerers, I would say, at minimum. But if you can get this to +2 in first strike, that's really good. +1 in first strike isn't even that bad. So, this is a good one. I would take it early, build around a little bit, prioritize spells a little bit higher. It's like a B level card.
Build around B?
Yeah, build around B.
Cool. Yeah.
All right, Sword of the Meek here. 2 mana. Also, I just noticed this recently that they have the little Odyssey tombstones in the corner there.
Oh, yeah.
Requires the care about the graveyard. So it's 2 mana for Sword of the Meek. Equipment. Equipped creature, it gets +1/+2, and equip cost of 2. Okay, so we'll just stop there. How good is that? 2 and 2, +1/+2.
I mean, generally not good, but in the world of Power Stones, better.
Yeah, it's on the better end of equipment we've seen in the set, right? Like, that's just... So 2 mana for... 2 mana and 2 to equip for +2/+2, that's very, very good. +1/+2 is worse, but not by a lot.
Not by a lot. The toughness boost is honestly, in some respects, better than the power boost. So I agree. Like, often, that's why we often knock like +2/+0.
Right.
The fact that you get both is nice.
And it's got this other ability that I don't think is too relevant. Whenever a 1/1 creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may return a Sword of the Meek from your graveyard to the battlefield and attach it. So if it gets milled or it gets destroyed, it can come back.
Yeah, or looted away.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's fairly that could be a common occurrence. Yeah, I like this. I'm gonna grade this at a B.
Oh wow, that's higher than I would have gone, but I don't hate it. I was gonna give it a C+, but yeah I can see. I think I'm gonna stay with C+ though. But.
Sure. Next is
another constructed one. Yeah, Thorn of Amethyst, 2 mana, artifact, non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. F, constructed.
Yep. Boo, hiss. Next, we have Adaptive Automaton, 3 mana for a 2/2. When ETBs choose a creature type, it is the chosen type in addition to its other types, and other creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. So, there's soldiers. That's a thing, and that's quite a good thing with the 1/1 tokens. That's probably going to be what you choose most of the time. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, a lot of the it's going to be rare that this card doesn't do something. Yes, it's awesome if you can pump all your soldiers, but some of the time you're just gonna go like, all right, I choose Beast or whatever, and it's like you give your Beast +1/+1 some of the time, you know. So
Yeah.
this is just a flexible card. It's a good card to take early. I give it a B+.
Ooh, baby, B+.
Yep,
I'm into
good.
it.
Next up, Ashnod's Altar, 3-mana artifact. Sack a creature, add colorless. Another just, commander combo-y card. Not for us. This is just an F.
Feels bad that like there's gonna be a card in every pack where like half the time it's a blank.
Yeah, I think with the Strixhaven ones, it was like what, maybe like a quarter of the time it was a blank. Yeah, I agree. There's a little fewer hits here.
Chromatic Lantern is 3 mana for an artifact. It taps for a mana of any color, and it gives lands you control the ability to tap for a mana of any color.
Very similar to like Astral Cornucopia. It's just a manolith with a bit more flexibility. It's hard because like if you always had this card in your opening hand, you kind of build around it, right? But it's just like you're not always gonna have this card in your opening hand. So same thing. It's just like a C-.
Yep, I think that is fair for sure.
Cloud Key, 3-mana artifact. As it enters the battlefield, you choose an artifact. You choose artifact, creature, enchantment, instant, or sorcery. Spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast, and that's symmetrical. That's not just for you.
Oh, F. Great.
Oh, sorry. Spells you got. My bad. It's not.
Spells you cast. Yeah.
You. My bad.
It's still not very good. Like this is
still not very good. Yeah.
It's worse than those mana rocks we've seen already, and we just gave those like C minuses.
Your deck has to be like super full of one of these.
It's not going to be.
It's not going to be, exactly. So yeah, I believe this is an F too.
Yeah, I'm in for F on the Cloud Key. Next is Inspiring Statuary, 3 mana for an artifact. Non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise, which means your artifacts can help cast those spells. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities, pay for 1. So it lets your Power Stones cast non-artifact spells.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's interesting.
I don't think
think it's not good.
That's not worth a card.
Not worth a card. Yeah,
but
exactly.
That's just worth noting that interaction.
But it's neat and I like it. But
it's just neat, but it's an F.
Yeah, I just think it's neat. All right, we got quite a spike here. 3-mana equipment. Equip cost 3. Equip creature has Death Touch, and whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up.
So expensive though. 3 mana equipment, 3 mana to equip. Even with the Power Stone discount, I'm not really interested in this.
Yeah, it's a little annoying because your opponent's like, well, I gotta block this Death Touch creature, or else I lose 5-6 life or something, plus the damage that it would have dealt. But yeah, it's kind of more punishery than anything, right? Where it's just like, oh, I could block,
your
I could
opponent
knock.
gets to choose.
Yeah, they get to choose. So yeah, it's not terrible, but I put this like a D.
Yeah, I'm in for D on the spike.
A cool one. Scrap Trawler, 3 mana, 3/2. Whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value.
Yeah, this card's great.
Yeah, this card's really cool. You do want to have a highish artifact count, so you can like consistently trigger this. But yeah, even if you just get back one thing, like this dies and gets back a 2-drop artifact, that's good. Although there's not a ton of 2-drop artifact creatures because a lot of the cheap ones are prototype creatures, so be careful about that.
Yeah. But this card's awesome. This is like a B.
Yep, agree.
All right, next up is Sculpting Steel.
Yep.
3 mana for an artifact. You can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact on the battlefield. So a clone.
Yeah, clone for artifacts. Not too bad. If worth noting, if you copy a prototype creature, it'll just be whatever was paid for that. You can't cheat that anyway. Yeah, I don't know. This is interesting. Are you? Do you think you'll put this in your decks?
Probably. I think it's not. It's definitely not an F in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. Also not awesome though. It's like we're kind of debating it here, right?
Well, I think it's not build aroundy, but it's synergy, right? You want to make sure that you're doing, like, in the world where you get to imagine this. Oh no, wait, hold on. How does this work with prototype?
It doesn't work the way you want it to.
Okay. Well then, poop. Next question is, it's still I don't know. It's still probably synergy C. The fact that you can copy your opponent's stuff is good.
Yes, certainly. Synergy C? Is that
synergy C? Like,
as in the synergy is you also have a lot of artifacts,
like,
right?
you want to make sure you have good stuff. Yeah, I'm not putting this in my blue-white soldiers deck or whatever.
Okay, chat's asking. We should answer.
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Chat's
yeah.
asking why doesn't it copy the big version? Because whenever you cast a prototype spell, the creature on the battlefield actually changes its mana value to whatever the prototype cost is. Everything like writes over the card kind of until it goes away, until it goes back to your hand or the graveyard. So on the battlefield, you'll be copying the 3 mana version of the prototype card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Semblance Anvil, 3 mana artifact with imprint. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile a non-land card from your hand. Spells you cast that share a card type with the exiled card cost 2 less to cast.
Yeah.
Would you like to spend this and another card to reduce the cost of the remaining card you have in your hand?
Yeah, just not worth it, unfortunately for us. So, yep, easy F.
Okay.
This next one, though, is kind of interesting. Staff of Domination, 3 mana, mythic artifact. It's got 5 abilities. 1 mana, untap Staff of Domination. 2 mana and tap it, you gain a life. 3 mana and tap it, untap target creature. 4 mana and tap it, tap target creature. 5 mana and tap it, draw a card.
I like this.
This is really putting to the test, like, oh, well, we've got Power Stone, so it makes things less clunky for activated abilities.
I mean, it's just like, it feels like when you have this card, you can't have too many Power Stones. You know?
How much worse or better is this than just the Anchor card?
What was the Anchor card?
The blue, scry. When you scry stuff to the bottom, you draw cards.
Oh, I don't know. It's so much more fun.
Yeah, I agree. This is a fun card. I think it's probably, even with Power Stones,
probably an F.
A little
an
too
F.
clunky.
Yeah, I think you're
like
right.
On a completely stable board, it's good, but you just can't guarantee that. I wouldn't quite give it an F. I do think it, like, you could, if you got a lot of mana production and you're like good at controlling the board, it's a fine card. But you gotta have all those hoops, and even then, it's like a C. So.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go D on staff. Like, I know I'm gonna pick one this at some point, but I just don't. I think the average person should not.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Aetherflux Reservoir, 4 mana for an artifact. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. And you can pay 50 life to have Reservoir deal 50 damage to any target.
So we have a deck here with the green fog that gains life and that white card draw gain life spell that Ben likes. Is that are we brewing here?
Well, no. But like, so the thing that you wanted to do with this in Kaladesh Remastered was with the 2 white 2-drop, so you could just like pick each. They had 2 of those, and then you would like cast one, pick the other one up, cast that, pick that one up. So you didn't want just like raw life gain. You just want to like
you need spells,
cheap spells like combo. Do we have that?
Don't know.
Someone's gonna do this. Like, so you'll see this on Twitter somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will figure it out. But
I think,
and even in Kaladesh, where there was like a few ways to enable this, it was like a cross your fingers and hope your deck does the sweet thing.
You were like, I'm lighting gems on fire for some Twitter clout.
Yeah, exactly. So I give it an F for now, but we'll see if it does come to fruition somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
Goblin Charbelcher is next. 4 mana artifact. 3 tap it. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Charbelcher deals damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed this way to any target. If the reveal card was a mountain, Charbelcher deals double the damage instead. Then put the reveal cards at the bottom in any order.
No, right?
It's a bit too wheel spinny. Yeah. Like it's a bit too wheel spinny, a bit too clunky. So the first time you play this, you inactivate it, it's 7 mana. You've got to you gotta hope to hit something like, maybe you kill a 2-drop, maybe you kill a 3-drop. You could easily whiff just like hitting a land on your first activation. So there's just too much variance in here. This is another card, kind of like staff, where like if the board is super controlled, yeah, it's actually gonna like do something over the course of a few turns. But I think on average, just too clunky, not gonna do enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna go F on Charbelcher.
Even with Power Stones.
Even with Power Stones, yes. Helm of the Host is 4 mana for an equipment. It's a legendary artifact. It has an equip cost of 5. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except that token isn't legendary. If equipped creature is legendary, that token gains haste.
So I'm looking through these cards, just like what they gave Mythic, what they gave Rare. I think they threw us a bonus limited players, because like the distinction to be made here is the Mythic ones are all like really good and limited.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. So yeah, this is a card, again, another Dominaria card that we might have played this recently if you played the Open, and it's really, really powerful. It's a little bit expensive, and you got to be careful when you equip it. Again, make sure you're not going to get blown out on the equip, where you go to equip, they kill your thing, you're down a bunch of mana. If it sticks, though, you just win. Yep. You just win very, very quickly. The token doesn't go away, too.
That's the important thing. You read this first time and you go, oh, okay, get it for the end of turn. That's fine. Nope. Yeah. Forever.
Yep, just stays. So, A?
I was never a Helm truther back in the day. Like
B minus then?
Yeah, I go B. I'll go B on it. Like
cool.
I think the 4 to cast, 5 to equip, even with Power Stones, is still it's a hefty cost.
Yeah.
You get quite a lot, but it's a real hefty cost. Because so you think about when it sticks, you win. When you go 4 to cast, 5 to equip, and they blow you out, you also lose that game.
Yeah.
So
not great.
Yeah.
Next up we got Lodestone Golem. 4 mana, 5/3 artifact creature. Non-artifact spells cost 1 more to cast.
And that's universal. It's for you.
Yeah, that is an asymmetrical. Yes. Yeah, it's hard to break the symmetry on this again. If you're like an aggressive deck with 18 creatures or something, 17 creatures, card's gonna be good. Like it's a good card to cast on 4. Your opponent's might have some trouble. They can't cast their cantrip your artifacts. Their removal gets a little more expensive. I think in most decks where you're like more like 14, 15 creatures, you're gonna get hurt by this a little too often, I would say. So be on the lookout for it. Not a high pick, but it's a playable card, certainly.
I don't think you're gonna cut this very often from your deck, but I also don't think you're gonna take it very highly. And that probably means that you won't take it if you're doing that, you probably won't take it that often because other people are going to take this higher than you.
Yep, totally.
So I'm going to give this a C.
Okay, yep. I'm in for that.
I am so hyped about this next card. Mystic Forge is 4 mana. It's an artifact. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of your library. And you can tap, pay a life to exile the top card of your library. So that the last ability there is, oh, I don't like the thing on top, or I can't more importantly, I can't cast the thing on top. Well, then I'll just exile it, move on. Maybe I can churn through my library the rest. This pack 1 pick 1 seems like a fun build around of like, I just oops all artifacts.
Yep. And it's good.
And it's very good. Yeah.
Yep. You need to make sure you've got that artifact count, but yeah.
Like we're talking like high teens, like
yes, exactly
17, 18 plus. But I'd give that a build around B.
Cool. Perilous Vault's next. 4 mana for an artifact in Mythic. 5 tap. Exile a Perilous Vault. Exile all non-land permanents.
So we knocked Silex for being 3 to cast, 4 to activate. How about 4 to cast, 5 to activate? Now you can do this at instant speed. Yes. Which you couldn't do with the Silex.
Right. I think still not great. I think it's okay. It's better than Silex, I think, by a little bit. Exile matters, and the instant speed matters too. But I think this is still like a C level card. All
right, next we have Phyrexian Processor. It's 4 mana for an artifact. As it enters the battlefield, pay any amount of life. Pay 4 tap, create an XX black Phyrexian minion. Creature token where X is the life paid as Processor entered the battlefield.
Yeah, it's a classic one here. So is this good? Is the question.
I never think so. But it's one of the OG limited bombs, right?
So let's think about, some of the game states here. So you're under a little bit of pressure, and you can't really afford to pay 4 mana, pay a bunch of life, do nothing. It's not going to be good there. Let's say you've gone 2 drop, 3 drop. They've gone 2 drop, 3 drop. You play this, you pay 5 life, which I think is kind of a sweet spot, 5 or 6. You can gamble too, right? You can go like way up to like 10 if you feel like, well, I'm just going to be pumping up 10/10s. And it's okay then. You do have to make sure the next turn or the turn you cast this, you have good blocks. But then you start pumping out like 6/6s each turn. That's going to be the best thing to do with your 4 mana, I imagine. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I see it for sure.
Yep.
It just a card with such a disparity between floor and ceiling just makes me so nervous.
Yeah, we got some folks in chat saying the magic number used to be 7, but that seems like a lot of life these days, right? Like, there's some folks saying, oh, it was so good back in the day. You didn't get as pressured as often back in the day, right? So enough of it, more often this card is going to be a liability in 2022.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous. About
Okay, and
go ahead.
I was gonna say getting this disenchanted seems pretty horrible.
Yeah, no, that's the real nightmare situation. So what do you
Yeah.
give this? I never know
it's
how to
really tough.
evaluate this card.
I think it's mostly not great. I think there's enough game states where it's just gonna be too painful. Your opponent punishes you for it somehow. You just can't cast it. It's like some of the other cards we've seen, where it's just like, yeah, you are going to lose this. You are going to get really gotten by it some amount of the time, though. So where does that land? Are you going to first pick this card? I think you could. I think probably I'm going to give this like a C plus, B minus, but
Wow.
I'm unsure about it. Unsure.
Yeah, I have no idea to evaluate this. I'll give this a D plus, but
Okay.
it's just not like I recognize that this card will beat me. I recognize that this card might even be good. This is just not a card that basically it doesn't attract me.
The flip side of getting beaten down, though, the thing is if your opponent's playing a controlling deck, this card's absurd. Like they can't beat it unless they remove it.
Yes, that's true.
So
Like I said, it's certainly bad. Like the ceiling is an A.
Yep.
Ceiling is this wins the game single-handedly.
Yep. All right. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Next, less of a discussion. Quicksilver Amulet. 4 mana, artifact, 4 tap. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Even with these giant prototype creatures.
Interesting. I think there might be a world.
Okay, yeah.
With 10
I'm willing to
tens
entertain it.
at common.
Yeah. I'm willing to entertain the idea.
I could see it.
Yeah. So you generate what, like maybe 10, 15 mana if you put 2 things in?
Yeah.
My gut says it's not going to be worth it, but if you're going to be drafting a bunch of 10/10s, it's worth the discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and instant speed is a big deal too.
Yeah, instant speed's a big deal.
I think
I'm going to give this like a D, but
the key for this card is you need to have like Urza or Mishra. Like you need to have you need to have velocity in your deck. So that when this is not good and it's in your hand, buy. Or when you're like, the thing I really need is Amulet, you can dig towards it.
Yeah, chat's saying, how many 4+ mana value creatures are you going to have? You can have a lot in this set because the expensive cards have cheat modes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree with what you're saying, by the way. Like, this card makes mana, quote unquote. So when you have cards that just make mana, you want more card draw. So if you've got that combo of stuff going on, there's potential, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an optimistic build around C+.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna give it a D, but yeah, respect the optimism there.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Unwinding Clock, another pretty easy one. 4 mana artifact. Untap all artifacts you control during each other player's untap step.
That's an F.
Yep, just not gonna do enough. Well of Lost Dreams. 4 mana artifact. Whenever you gain life, you may pay X, where X is less than or equal to the amount of life you gained. If you do, draw X cards. So it's Shauna on an artifact, basically.
But not on end step, just whenever.
Yes, just whenever.
Is this good?
So how much, I mean, you probably have the crash course notes kind of fresh in your mind. How much instant to life gain did we go through?
Not a lot, to be honest.
Not a ton. I think there's probably just not enough life gain payoffs or life gain enablers to make this card good. So yeah, I think probably just enough.
Yeah, I'm in for that. Another F here is Door to Nothingness. 5 mana for an artifact. It enters the battlefield tapped, and you can pay double Wooburg, so 10 total mana, and tap it, sacrifice Door to Nothingness, target player loses the game.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to do, but like the double of each color is just so tough. Even if you are like a splish splashy deck. Yeah, so probably strategic F and build around B for fun.
Right.
Gilded Lotus is back. 5 mana artifact. Tap, add 3 mana of any color.
Good. Like, I mean, decks that want, there's that green 5 mana, make 3 power stones, gain 3 life. This is better than that.
Totally.
By a margin. I think this is good. My guess is this is like a B minus.
Yeah, you want card draw. You want the expensive stuff. You know, like it's the stuff we've been saying for a lot of these cards. But if you're there, yeah, it's like I would still take like a C plus, just like a good tool to get your bridgey there. But yeah, it's playable.
Okay.
Mind's Eye is next. 5 mana artifact, Mythic. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may pay 1 if you do draw a card.
It's really putting my 5 mana draw multiple cards to the test here.
So even if your opponent's not playing blue, they've probably got some like cantrippy stuff or stuff that rummages, like there's red cards that rummage. So on average, it's going to be still probably about a card a turn, but sometimes you're going to get an additional card here and there.
Mm-hmm. Is that good?
Yeah, he's that good. I
like how much. Like I think the thing to think about for a card like this is like how much better is just divination
than this card.
than this card. And it has to be a little bit like you have to have the right kind of deck, right kind of board state for this to get to reach its potential beyond divination.
Yeah, I think if you just compare this to like wiretapping or the
the blue artifact,
surveillance, yeah, I think it's just like a very similar card still. So yeah, I would be low on this, probably a D.
Yeah,
like, I can see coming up on it, but not too interested in this class of cards.
I agree. Next is Precursor Golem. 5 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 3/3 colorless Golem artifact creature tokens. Whenever a player so either you or your opponent, casts an instant or sorcery spell that targets only a single Golem, that player copies that spell for each other Golem that spell could target. So that means any Golem on the battlefield. So you cast Giant Growth on this. Well, all 3 of your Golems plus any other Golem on the battlefield gets +3/+3. Your opponent deals 3 damage to it. You cast the 3 damage, make a Power Stone spell on a Golem.
Oh god, oh man.
Your opponent is getting 3 Power Stones.
Oh, jeez, I completely did not register that. That's sick. It's a really good card though.
It's very good. I mean, it's just like it's very efficient. The swings with that second line. It's a very cool card, just in that raw power, but then the swings that you can get from that copying effect are quite large.
Yeah, and often when you play this, be pretty willing to trade them off as
trade this off specifically, because once this is dead, the other Golems don't have that text.
No. It's sorry. Yes, right. This one specifically.
Right. So if you trade this off, then the other 2 are just 3/3 tokens.
Yep. And then you buy it back.
Yeah.
Do it all again. No, this is really good. I think this is like an A-.
Yeah, I think so too. Just on efficiency, on it being colorless. And then
Psychosis Crawler is up next. 5 mana star artifact creature. Its power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in your hand, and whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses a life.
I'm not into this. It's gonna be a little babby.
Well, on turn 5, this is gonna be what, like a 4/4, 5/5.
Really, 4/4 or 5/5? What have you been doing the rest of the game?
Oh, clearly drawing a bunch of cards.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
How can I argue with that?
So let's just say this is a 4/4, right? It's a 5 mana 4/4 that sits there and dings your opponent each turn.
Okay.
You like that?
Not really, because it's not staying a 4/4.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so yeah, probably
I think it's
not.
This is like a D+.
Yeah, not a super good card. If you are drawing a lot of cards, though, it is good. Like if you actually have a bunch of card draw.
Cage Sun is next. It's 6 mana for an artifact. It enters the battlefield. Choose a color. Creatures you control of the chosen color get +1/+1, and whenever a land's ability causes you to add 1 or more mana of the chosen color, add 1 additional mana of that color.
Yeah, so it's like a really expensive anthem and a really expensive mana.
Where's my card draw?
Yeah, so I don't think this card. I mean, it's not unplayable, but it's not a card you want to take early. It's just like if you. And it's also pretty tricky because not all your cards are going to be colored creatures, right?
Exactly,
There's going to be
right.
Yeah.
Even in the mono-colored decks.
Yeah.
A third, half of your creatures are going to be artifacts.
Yeah, this is your instantly cast your 10/10, I suppose, the next turn credit card.
There we go.
Yeah, I think mostly enough though.
I think so too.
Next up, Keening Stone, 6 mana artifact, 5 tap. Target player mills X cards where X is the number of cards in that player's graveyard. Oof.
Wow.
Yeah, so we saw this in Rise of the Eldrazi, and that was a very, very, very slow format. It was just known for being way slower than your average format. You can cast these 6 mana cards. Kind of similar, honestly, to this format where there's like giant monsters and you have these tokens that help you cast your expensive cards. So this is, if the board is stable, like if you're a control deck and you can just like play this in 6 and the board's kind of just like at parity, this kills them very quickly. You honestly like 2 activations, 3 activations at max to kill them. Because it just goes, all right, they've got probably around 4 or 5 cards in the library. They mill 5, or so they mill 4 the first activation, then they mill 8 or 9 or 10, and then you kill them.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
you have to spend
definitely
mana
a quick control finisher, I would say.
Yeah. It's not a perfect control finisher in that it doesn't stabilize you or anything, but it does just, win the game quickly.
So, I don't know, build around C+?
I'd say like build around B. I think
B.
this just like, it's kind of funny. If your opponent has unearthed or, stuff that they can get back from the grave, it's a little bit awkward, but, you will kill them pretty quickly. So it's not like they're going to get infinite value or anything.
Next is Ramos, Dragon Engine. 6 mana for a 4/4 legendary artifact creature dragon with flying. Whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos for each of that spell's colors. And then you can remove 5 +1/+1 counters from Ramos to kill your opponent with Door to Nothingness.
Yeah.
Add double Wooburg. Activate only once
Awesome.
each turn.
This card's good. It's going to be a 6 mana 4 for flyer that just grows pretty much with every spell. I mean, every other spell maybe with your artifact density, but it's going to be a 5/5/6/6 flyer. Don't worry too much about that second ability. It's just a reasonable flyer.
Yeah, and it's colorless, so it goes in every deck. That's a
C+,
C+,
B minus. Yeah,
B minus seems good to me.
Yeah, it's B minus. This one,
yeah,
this is definitely the best one of the artifacts here. Wormcoil Engine, 6 mana, Mythic, 6/6, Death Touch, Lifelink. When it dies, you make a 3/3 artifact token with Death Touch and a 3/3 artifact token with Lifelink.
Dies to pacifism, easy.
Yeah, gets exiled.
Yeah, gets exiled. This is an A+ card.
Yeah, it is an A+. Yes, well, I was gonna say it's not resilient, but it is to a lot of removal.
Yeah.
Some removal, yeah, it gets it, but your opponent, is gonna be very lucky when that happens. That lines up properly. So A+, great card. Power Stone it out on turn 5.
Next we have Platinum Angel, 7 mana for a 4/4 with flying. You can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game.
Very exciting line of text that isn't as good as you might think.
No.
There's some games where your opponent can't deal with this, can't get it off the battlefield, and it's like crap.
Hard to imagine that happening though.
Like blue's gonna have bounce, white's gonna it has disenchant.
Yeah.
So usually when it's like, oh, this thing sticks, and like my opponent can't deal with it, it's because they're blue-white, and there's ways to get things off the battlefield in blue-white. So
yeah,
not a bad card. It's you should put this in most of your decks, I would say, still. But it's just like a C+ around there.
Yeah, it's just a little overcosted to me.
Yeah, certainly,
because it is like effectively that text it's not ignorable. Like obviously you have to answer it, but it's just like you would have to answer any 4/4 flyer,
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's not really a big ask. So yeah, I'm in for C. You said C+. What do you?
Yeah, let's do C.
Okay. All right, bring us home.
Thundering Titan, last one here. 8 mana, Mythic, 7/10. When it enters or leaves the battlefield, choose a land of each basic land type, then destroy those lands.
Another slight pull to monocolored.
Well, it's like I think reanimation for this one. Like get in the yard somehow, get it back, kill your opponent's 2 things. It's kind of a funny card because like when you're playing it's better in mirror matches. That's what Thundering Titan is, right? Because you're gonna have islands, plains, they're gonna have islands, plains, and you can kill their islands, plains. You need to choose something of a basic land type. So like if you're playing black green, they're playing white blue, you have to blow up 2 of your lands too.
Yeah. It's how much better is this?
It's not that good.
Than the 10/10 reach trample.
Yeah, it's not that good.
Right?
There's gonna be spots where it's great because like your opponent's maybe a little bit choked on mana, but I would say it's slightly above average for just like big expensive thing.
Yeah, I think I'm just going C on Thundering Titan.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that's it. And even with our little interruption, sub 1 hour. You were right.
Here we go.
There we go. Alex, thank you so much for joining me for this. As always, I missed it, and I definitely know a lot of folks out there missed us doing this for Dominaria United. So I'm happy to be back in the throes of card evaluation with you. And yeah, so we got early access on Thursday, pre-release this weekend, and then actual access Tuesday, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, it's pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty soon. So yeah, and as we know, none of these card evaluations will change.
Yep.
Yeah.
First week it's gonna be solid in stone. Exactly what we said here.
Exactly
today.
what we said is right. And if
Gonna be right.
we disagree, just take the average of our 2 grades.
That's how Magic works.
Yeah, lock in the tier list. All right, sweet.
All right.